Good evening.
Really close to the mic.
Please take a moment of silence to acknowledge and show our respect to the Coast Salish people. We gratefully honor Coast Salish people for their land stewardship and commit to continuing to grow our relationships with them and the lands that we now live on.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Jessica. Okay, so the agenda this evening is all about the candidates in contested races for our ballots on Vashon-Maury Island. And this evening, once we have a quorum, we'll go back and approve the minutes of the last meeting, and we will introduce our new board member, Jamila Stigall. But now we're going to move forward, and here's our facilitator for the evening is Amy Dreyer. She's the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. And Amy will share how the forum will work, and that all the winning candidates, the folks that aren't here this evening, will be invited back. All the candidates will be invited back, the winning candidates, at our December meeting, so that we can hear from everybody. So, all the candidates, do you want to do this part about the 2 minutes, or do you want me to read it? Okay. So the candidates will have 2 minutes each to introduce themselves. Debbie Jackson, sitting in the front pew here, will assist with timekeeping for this part. It would also speed things up if those of you in the second pew, some of you could move forward so that we move very quickly between going up, coming up here, and coming down. That would be really helpful. Questions will be taken from the in-person and the Zoom audiences. These questions must be brief and addressed to both candidates. Amy will time them at 30 seconds. If they've not articulated a question by then, she will extrapolate or move on, because we'll be keeping this part of the event to questions, not statements. And I'm going to turn it over to Amy now.
I don't think I'm live. Now I am. Hello. Hi, welcome. Yes, so we will go ahead and get started. And Debbie, let's put our start time at 7:05. And that way we'll know our 15-minute increments and our 30-minute increments. So we are going to start tonight with the King County Council race. And we're going to do 30 minutes for the King County Council race. And in the room we have Teresa Mosqueda, who is running for the seat. And on Zoom, we have Sofia Aragon, who is also running for the seat. And we will start with 2-minute opening statements from each of the candidates. And then because we have 30 minutes for the King County race, we'll do up to 2 minutes for the answers. And that allows us about 3 questions for that piece. For the following races, we're going to be a little bit more lightning round. But because we have a little bit more time for the King County, we'll move a little slower. So I'll go ahead and ask, I guess, Teresa, if you want to come up and give a 2-minute opening statement. And then Sophia, we will move over to you on Zoom for a 2-minute opening statement. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Amy. Good to see you again. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here and to see many of you in person and online. I'm Teresa Mosqueda, running for King County Council District 8, which would be my honor to serve Vashon-Maury Island and most of all of Burien, most of Tukwila, White Center, West Seattle, Georgetown, South Park, all the way up into Capitol Hill, downtown, and Pike Place Market. It's a very diverse district. But given the diversity of the district and the fact that I have so much to learn, I have been out here on Vashon-Maury Island about every 3 weeks since announcing. Many of you have had the chance to meet with in person, and I continue to look forward to meeting more folks and hearing some of the issues that you work on, that you'd like to see from the county. My background is in public health. I started at CMAR Community Health Centers. I worked at Department of Health. I worked at Children's Alliance, fighting for health coverage for everyone. I worked at Community Health Network of Washington, the Washington State Labor Council, all before going to Seattle City Council. And the reason that I continue to want to serve and create public policy is very much aligned with many of the conversations I've heard from many of you over the last few months, since basically the first week of February that I've been coming out here. You are interested in a healthy, connected, and vibrant community. You are interested in making sure that more people have access to housing, addressing the crisis of housing as a public health crisis, and investing in housing and workforce housing on the island just as much as we're interested in investing in regional solutions for the affordability crisis and the homelessness crisis. I've heard from many of the small business owners out here that the thing that they want is access to more affordable housing so that workers can have a place to call home on the island, and we're not so restrained and restricted with the ferry system. I am interested in serving you to invest in housing, invest in health, and invest in worker supports to create more economic resiliency and healthy communities.
All right, and now let's hear from Sofia Aragon for a couple minutes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Amy, and thank you for letting me participate remotely, given that I'm overcoming flu, cold, or something. It's not COVID, but didn't want to expose anyone to it. So I'm Sofia Aragon. I'm the mayor of Burien. I'm a registered nurse and experienced legislative advocate. And I'm running for King County Council District 8 because our region's leaders just need to do better. And we want King County to be a safe, healthy, and inclusive place. But some of our elected leaders have put political grandstanding before results. And as your council member, I want to focus on proven common sense solutions on crime, homelessness, as well as public health. So as an immigrant child in the Philippines who grew up in South Seattle, and I've lived in unincorporated areas of the county as well as cities, I've seen our community's biggest challenges. And I was fortunate to have access to healthcare thanks to my mom's union. And inspired by her, I chose to be a nurse to serve diverse communities, including those experiencing homelessness, those experiencing addiction and mental health. And as mayor, I take action to prevent a surge in drug-related deaths that we're experiencing. Increasingly, it's the #1 cause of death for people under 40 in Washington. And I'm going to focus on treatment services on the King County Council. And on homelessness, I'll push for increased accountability from our troubled Regional Homelessness Authority. And so countywide, communities are struggling with crime. People deserve a fast response. The recent home invasions against Asian elderly, the death of Miss Kandula, and vandalism in Little League is alarming. Representing communities is key on the council, and there hasn't been a council member of Asian heritage for over 40 years. But we have a lot to be optimistic about. We need leadership that's willing to take a stand that works. And I'm the only candidate in this race that's been endorsed by the Seattle Times, Labor, as well as Business. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I definitely have some questions, but I want to give the audience a chance first. I know we're early and we're still warming up our brains. Are there any hands raised on Zoom right now? Or anyone? Anyone? All right, we'll start with Zoom and then we'll go over to Alex. And for this, we'll again do 2-minute responses, let's say up to 2 minutes. 2 minutes allows us 3 questions. If we do shorter than that, we can maybe get 4 in. So let's start with David Vogel. You're muted, David, if you could start over.
Sorry, what is your plan for addressing affordable housing on Vashon Island, both affordable in the sense of below the median income and also workforce housing, which I guess is middle housing?
Great, thank you so much. And we'll start with Sofia for this one, 2 minutes.
Thank you very much for that question. Well, here in Burien, we are able to look at several models, and it really depends on what the community would like to see in its own plan and how Vashon wants to be developed. It makes sense to increase the density where there are major thoroughfares on the island, where the community identifies. And we've had a number of models to share. We've expanded, for example, Habitat for Humanity that goes up to about 60% AMI. There are eco-thrive cottages that we've authorized in the last 4 years. And also there is mixed market rate as well as affordable housing apartment complexes. And just seeing those projects, number one, get authorized, we see, for example, how quickly accessible they might come online. And I just want to share for experience the mixed market rate and affordable housing made possible by the multifamily tax exemption is the quickest one to come online. And just need to be realistic that when you go to very deep low income, which is definitely necessarily needed, that a project just may need more time to come on board. May take more than 2 or 3 years. So I think that I would look at how would the county help attract as well as provide some financial support. And I know you're also dependent on the county in terms of planning and permitting to more dense housing where it would make sense for Vashon Island. And for me, for workforce housing, about 60% AMI seems to be around that range. I know when my mom was the only person working in the household, she was about 60% AMI. And a person now working her same position actually would have needed to purchase to be in affordable housing. So that's my definition of workforce, but that would be my suggestion for Vashon.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much. So my current title includes Chair of the Housing Committee in Seattle. I've worked to quadruple the funding investments for affordable housing through the passage of Jumpstart. We know what it takes to invest in more affordable housing and its resources. It's expediting the permits and it's waiving the fees. Some of the conversations I've had with folks here from Vashon Household, for example, have talked about how it took 5 years to get the permitting that they needed from the county. In addition to waiting and having people go without housing, that cost millions of dollars more. It is unacceptable to have that amount of wait time go by. So number one, to answer the question, I would expedite permitting directly with the county. Number two, I wanted to invest direct resources into unincorporated areas. Vashon-Maury Island and White Center community have specifically said, we need additional direct support. You are our council members. And in addition to the community council here, I want to serve as your direct council member to directly invest resources into the area for building affordable housing. And number three, waiving fees. Affordable housing developers tell me time and time again, they are paying money back into the very systems and waiting for permits and fees to go through to the very entities that are supposed to be as invested in creating affordable housing. I want to waive the water hookup and the utility fees so that we don't have as much of a barrier for those affordable housing providers. And lastly, we know that often when we create more affordable housing, if we're creating supportive housing, we're relying on workers to be able to keep people stably housed. At Seattle City Council, I came in and the workers had not had a cost of living increase in 10 years. I will do the same thing at King County Council, invest in a COLA and additional living wages so that the supportive housing workers who provide services to residents can help people stay stably housed. And lastly, I have the endorsements of every single 34th District Democrat in our district here. And the reason is because I see the urgency around housing and the nexus to environmental justice. Investing in affordable housing is urgent as it is to address the climate crisis. If we don't have affordable housing and housing in general in this island, then we know more people are commuting hours away and trying to get to their places of work. That's true for the island and it's true around the county. So I see it as an urgent environmental justice issue as well.
All right, let's go. We'll take a question from the room. There's a very urgent question in back.
Do either one of you people have overpopulation in your vocabulary?
Okay, let's go ahead and move on. I think Alex, you had a question because I know that the answer for both of them is probably a Merriam-Webster answer, yes, for sure. So let's move on to Alex. What's your question?
Can we turn the volume up on Zoom a little bit? I can't hear Sophia. It's a question for the organizers, I guess.
All right, we are moving through these. Clip, clip, clip. So that will take us to John Whitaker on Zoom. I see you have your hand up if you want to unmute and
Got
go
it.
ahead and answer your question, John, or ask
Can
your
you hear
question.
me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Teresa, you voted against making open drug use on the Seattle City Council. You voted against making it illegal in Seattle. And could you explain why you might have done that? And would you do that on the county council if that type of ordinance came up? We've had 850 OD deaths in the county so far this year. And so I just like your opinion on it, and I would like the other candidate's opinion on how she feels about that.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I'm glad to have the chance to address this. I believe in the facts and data and the facts mattering. So here's a really important fact that's not getting a lot of coverage on this issue. The Washington State Legislature passed the Blake fix earlier this year. It is already the statute across the state of Washington that public consumption of illegal substances is not allowed. The only question in front of Seattle City Council was whether or not we wanted to double down on prosecution and allow for the city attorney for the first time ever to have prosecutorial authority to prosecute people for substance use. That is a very different question of whether or not there should be consumption outside. I don't think it's good for the individuals who have the public health crisis of addiction to be using inside or outside. I don't think it's good for the health of our community, our kiddos, our elders, our families to see that. I want people to get access to care and services. So the question that I asked was, what are we doing instead of doubling down on prosecutorial authority? We should be spending our time focused on how we are complementing the state law that already makes it illegal to use substances and ensure that people have an alternative to going into jail. Councilmember Zahalai and King County Executive have talked about how the county is at capacity. It is not safe to continue to send more people to the county for something that is a public health crisis. And we also know, and we also all agree, I believe, that we don't want people overdosing and dying. The statistics are that when people are arrested for consumption, they are more likely to die while in jail or die upon release because they begin consuming again and overdose. The solutions are clear through a public health lens that instead of additional prosecutorial authority, we should be investing in pre-arrest diversion strategies that get people into housing, health, counseling services. That is what I voted to support. In addition to that, the budget has not been released, and we do not know, and I have a preview, we cannot expect there to be additional funding to go with this. So any conversation around how this is only going to be balanced with pre-arrest diversion is going to be a false promise if the funding doesn't come. As the budget chair, that's my commitment, investing in public health strategies that prevent people from going to jail and help them get the services and the public health services that they need.
Great, thank you. And Sophia, did you want to take some time to talk about this issue or ask another question?
No, I'm fine. I response. I fully supported the state law, and the city of Burien aligned with that. We've had conversations among the King County cities that this was a really urgent issue to address, and the need for uniformity across the county so that we know that there is one standard for this crime of consumption. And the gross misdemeanor was carefully negotiated through all of our legislators. It was not an easy thing to do. We know that they went through special session, and that careful negotiation which is what we elected them to make these decisions for us. This is a state level law, is something that we wanted to honor in Burien and be in alignment with. And people are dying right now. And I mentioned in my introduction, because it's so important to me to recognize the statistics out there, is that people are dying. It's increasingly number one cause of death for people under the age of 40. In terms of a public health approach, what I try to do is work with schools and have the education available so that kids know when they're at risk, because we don't know what's in everyday substances given the fentanyl crisis. So Burien does agree with what the state landed on, because we need every tool we have to urge people into services. And that state law does provide for funds, $27 million. And that's something that we shouldn't be turning down.
Great, thank you so much. All right, do we have another question from the audience? And, oh, go ahead, Jake.
Yeah. Will you be willing to attend or have a staffer of yours attend every month at our community council meeting, like Greg Nichols and other council members used to do?
Great, thanks. And Sophia, let's go ahead and start with you.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be on top of the community concerns. And I know that the community council are those members of your community there to elevate the issues that are really important to Vashon. So it would be a very important conduit of information for me as I'm on the King County Council, since that group acts like a city council for the city of Vashon. So I would definitely, or sorry, excuse me, Vashon Island. So I would definitely support having a staff member consistently attend meetings so we know what's going on and build positive relationships with community members and be able to delve into issues and be proactive so we're not just jumping in when there's an emergency arises that affects the residents of Vashon Island.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for that question. And I think the proof is in the fact that I have been out here. Every 3 weeks or so, I've tried to come out here and meet with different community members. My staff has attended the community council by Zoom in the past, and I would very much like to not just have a staff member, but to be out here myself. I think it's important to do that, to hear directly from folks about what priorities you all have, and to also share information and, in some cases, dispel misinformation. So I look forward to continuing to come out here and to be part of the conversations, to continue to learn more from folks. And I just want to, on the topic of misinformation, I do just want to note on the last topic, it is absolutely important for folks to know that there was never a disagreement with the state legislation. There's no requirement that jurisdictions codify the Blake Law. It is a gross misdemeanor that the state legislature has decided to create the law of the land for Washington State for public consumption. That was never in question. The question that I brought forward from a public health lens is, how are we creating the solutions that we know will help people get healthy, clean, sober, housed, and be productive members of our community? That's what I'll continue to do as a council member. Ask the question through a public health lens. Will this improve the community health? Will this improve individual health? And how can we continue to invest directly in what the workers and the community on the ground are saying? And those workers and the folks on the ground are saying people need direct services and community investments. When I'm here on the ground and hearing from folks about housing needs or small business support, environmental justice issues, the water supply issues, that is how I will make decisions at the county, directly from folks who are on the ground in Vashon-Maury Island, so that we have the better information to make informed decisions at the county.
Okay, and yeah, we'll go to Hillary, and then Kevin, you've also got your hand up on Zoom.
One of the problems we have on this island are short-term rentals. We've lost over 100 rental units to short-term rentals. In other areas, they've decided that for short-term rental, a person has to live on the property or share the house or whatever. What is your ideas on short-term rentals, and can you eliminate them? Thank you.
Fantastic, Hillary, thank you. And we'll start with Teresa.
Thank you so much, Amy. And when I had the chance to meet with Amy and talk to folks about some of the priorities for business owners, they too raised this issue. With so many short-term rentals on the island, it is very hard to find workforce housing. And workforce housing for entry-level positions or minimum wage positions up to medium and higher wage positions on the island. If people cannot afford to live here, the workforce will probably go to where there is housing that's accessible. So from a business perspective, it seems to be at a moment of crisis. From a worker perspective, which is my background working with the Washington State Labor Council and the various unions, we know it as a worker justice issue. And it's also a racial justice issue. I was just talking to some folks before the meeting started about how Vashon Island prides itself on wanting additional diversity here. It is absolutely imperative that we have more housing, affordable housing across this island to make it accessible to live here. I absolutely support regulating short-term rentals. It is not punitive to the property owner. In fact, it promotes greater economic activity if we have more people who are working and living on the island and across our district. We have regulated to a certain degree in Seattle to make sure that if you have like 1 or 2, 3 properties, you actually have to be living in one of those. And I want to see that percentage increase for the time amount that the property owner should actually be there. We're also looking into a vacancy tax, and this is something that would require state authorization to do at the city, but I'd be very interested in trying to advocate for that at the county level so that we have that tool at the state. If you're going to leave your property derelict or vacant and not fill it, that is not actually contributing to the local community, just like it's not contributing to have short-term rentals constantly turning over just for the point of having income for that one person. And I know I'm probably over my time, but it's also something that business owners have said. And last time I was here, I talked about a business owner, and Tom brought this story up. He said, we have businesses that in the peak time of tourism, you see tourists crowding the sidewalk, but the businesses are shuttered because they don't have the workers to open that day. So it's not just good enough to say, hey, I'm contributing to the economy by allowing tourists to come if you don't actually have a place for workers to live. Very interested in regulation. We've done some work at the city. I'd like to see that expanded and built upon at the county as well.
Thank you. And Sophia, go ahead.
Well, and definitely this also brings together the other issue that Vashon is facing and many other communities are facing is there's a lack of supply for people who want to live on Vashon. So county supports that allows the increase in availability of housing in
Sophia, could you
ways
turn
that
up your
make
volume
sense.
just a little bit? Sorry.
Sure. I don't know. Is that better? How's that?
Thank you so much.
Okay, sorry about that. Well, it's definitely also a supply issue for Vashon Island, and however it makes sense for this community to grow that density, the county is in a position to support that development. So that's something I would support. I would definitely look into working with the community about what regulations make sense for Airbnbs and that type. This is clearly taking away housing choices for people who'd like to work there. And also there's been models in other states and how to better make available these short-term rentals and put some restrictions so that they are more available for homes for folks who work in the area.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And we will take one more question, and it is from Kevin. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much. Vashon-Maury Islanders are concerned about the climate. The King County Cities Climate Collaborative, or the K4C, advocates for progress on climate. But Vashon-Maury is not a city, so we're not currently a member of the K4C. As a consequence, we're not actively engaged in their climate advocacy, and our voice is not directly heard. What would you do as our King County councilperson to assure that Vashon and Maury Islanders' voices regarding progress addressing the climate are heard by the K4C?
Great, thank you. And we'll go ahead and start with Sophia. And Sophia, can you tell us what the K4C is as well in your answer?
Sure. And you know what, honestly, I know I get correspondence from the K4C. I know that it is a convening of organizations and cities around climate. But honestly, I'd have to look at my city phone and do that. I'm sorry, I'm just
You don't have
blanking
like a
out.
binder,
I just call it.
like a 100-page binder, just like in your head? You keep records?
I have one physical one, and I said no more binders, thank you. On my city. Sorry about that. But anyway, I think it's unfortunate that Vashon is left out of the conversation just because you're not the city, because clearly you are a community unto yourself and self-governing. So I don't have a problem having Vashon on the K4C table. And another area that I see that Vashon is absent, where I've been really active in Burien, which shows me the importance of having your community at the table, is around airport issues. So I was chair of the Burien Airport Committee, And because Burien is officially one of those FAA cities because we're in such proximity to SeaTac Airport. And when we talk about climate, it's so important to preserve green space because of the natural ability to protect us from the exposures, right, of airport activities. And I always felt like it was wrong that Vashon was kind of on the side trying to make people aware of this issues they have, but they're constantly being ignored because they're not, quote, an official airport city. So I think it's really important that Vashon be given that seat at the table on the K4C and be part of those climate discussions.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that question. Thank you for asking it. And I think in addition to supporting it, I would advocate for Vashon to be able to have a seat on the K4C. Every time I've been out here, I've had conversations with folks about the aquifer issues, the water supply, the change in tides, the king tides separating Vashon from Maury Island when the strip of land got covered with the king tides. The fact that there's not a recycling and opportunity to put people to work and keep recycling here instead of trucking things in and out. I hear about the air pollution because of the change in the airplane traffic that's occurred. You are on the front lines here in Vashon and dependent on solutions to address climate change. I think it's imperative that you have a seat there, and I know that you have the solutions, fighting for solutions that need a voice, not only on King County Council to elevate these and hopefully expedite them because you've been working on them for a long time, but to build on the good work that you've done, that McDermott has been able to work on as well with you, but to take it to the next level, because the issues that we're seeing in terms of climate change have to be addressed now. It is unacceptable to have Maury Island cut off from Vashon when a tide rises. You are on the front lines of experiencing climate change. You should be at the front of the seat talking about solutions to that. And I very much look forward to working with you to make that seat possible, but also to elevate the stories that you've shared with me.
Oh, go ahead real quick. You got 30 seconds.
I got 30 seconds. Thank you. And one really concrete way to do that is to get more people out of their cars traveling back and forth. I know the ferry issue is real. I listened in on some of the conversations you had on Monday. Since day one, I've been saying we need more water taxis from King County. I will fight to protect those water taxis and expand them. And the thing that I think would help with getting more people to take the foot ferry, the water taxi, and leave their car at home is a small metro shuttle that goes back and forth from the terminals, just like I have in West Seattle. It takes me almost directly to my house, and it comes regularly, routinely. It's reliable. That can help get people out of their cars and use the water taxi that I'll fight for.
Amy,
right.
I have your answer. I have your answer as to what the K4C stands for, if you're interested. It is King County Cities Climate Collaboration. So that is K and the 4 Cs. And given its name, I don't see why Vashon Island would be restricted because you are a part of King County.
Awesome, thank you. And Sophia, while we have you, we're wrapping up this segment now, but Sophia, how can people learn more about you and your candidacy?
Sure. So my website is votesofiaaragon.com. So I invite you to learn more about me on the website. You can send me messages, ask questions, ask about how to volunteer, and I would be happy to meet with anyone one-on-one or remotely, however works for you. Thanks, Amy.
Great, thank you. And same question, how can we learn more?
Thank you. I'm at teamteresa.org. There's some flyers in the back, and look forward to having more conversations. I'll be out here the second week of October and routinely again. And I look forward to continuing to work to make sure that we can address the health issues, the climate justice issues, the worker and small business issues together, and with urgency, recognizing King County is your, official King County connection needs to have a direct input from Vashon and Maury Island. I hope you've heard from me. I'm doing my homework and continue to learn more from you is what I look forward to.
All right, Sophia, Teresa, thank you so much for your time. I think we're gonna jump back over now to the business portion.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you both very much. And now we have a quorum for our community council meeting, so we'll just do some additional business until the 7:45 when our other local candidates will kick in. So first is to approve the minutes from the August meeting. So those of you who are on our mailing list received the minutes. And so I will ask if anyone has... Well, we want to ask, make sure if there's any changes or corrections first, okay? And hearing none, we will mark the, and I'm just looking at no one raising their hand on Zoom. We will mark the minutes from August as approved. And the other very important item we have on our agenda tonight is having an endorsement of a new board member. The Board of Directors met and approved unanimously Jamila Stigall to be a new board member, and she's here with us tonight. Come on, stand up at the mic, please. And just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey neighbors, good to see everyone. Thanks so much for the warm welcome. My name is Jamila. I've been on the island for about 7 years now. I've got a few kiddos. I've worked at a variety of island jobs. I've worked primarily on the island here for the past 7 years and also as a commuter before I lived here. So I was invited to work here, and my kids hit a certain age where I had to make the choice to leave the neighborhood I called home and come to this beautiful island that I now get to share with you all. At the last meeting, Diane made a call to arms, a call to neighbors and passionate people to get involved and to lighten the load that the board has so graciously taken upon themselves. And because they've done that, we get to have this space where we get to raise our voices in unison, in harmony, and make our voices, our opinions, our needs, our concerns heard. So my only intent is to just join in the effort to keep what we're doing here going. It's an honor and a privilege to serve my community, and I love living here, and I just want to contribute and yeah, you know, do my civic duty here. So thanks for letting me ramble. Wasn't expecting to be on camera today, but that's probably about all I have to share. I look forward to what the speakers have to say.
Thank you so much. Now, you, as our members of the Community Council, you get to endorse anything the board does. So it's your turn now to vote and confirm Jamila, as a new member of the board. So we have in-person votes, and we have a poll for the folks on Zoom. And I'll start the poll. I will launch the poll. Okay. And I would like a show of hands of the people here in the audience who are members. Okay. So I will end the poll. And we have many in favor. Is there anyone against? There's nobody against. 100% total unanimous approval. Thank you so much. Okay, and now we can continue on with the candidates.
All right, back we go. Before we begin, and we'll start with Martha and Angela, so come on up. But while we are waiting to hear from you, we will acknowledge that there was another race with Casey Alanis and Holly Gilman, and Holly has had to drop out for family reasons, and so Casey is running unopposed. And there is also a race with Lucia Armenta, who is an incumbent, who will also be up. But tonight we are focusing on the contested races. So we will again do 2-minute opening statements. So Angela, you're right there. Jump on up for a 2-minute opening statement to the podium.
Can you move Angela's chair over on Zoom? They can't see me when she's...
Sure. Yeah. All right. We're moving towards this way.
But right here is fine for right now.
Okay. Are we good? yet? Okay, are we good? Good? All right, all right. Go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so pleased to be here tonight. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Angela Marshall. I am running for position 3 for the Vashon School Board Director. I appreciate having the opportunity to share a little bit more about me and my candidacy. A little bit about me: I am a daughter of a retired special education teacher and counselor, sister to an elementary school speech therapist, sister-in-law of a 3rd grade school teacher, and granddaughter to multiple educators, but most importantly, a mother of 2 children in the Vashon School District. I began a career in labor relations as a union representative at the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, where I represented local Seattle broadcast workers at television stations here in Seattle. I represented workers at the Woodland Park Zoo and also workers in the passenger rail industry. I was raised in a family of public servants. I was really drawn to public service myself, and I ended up at King County, where I currently hold a rewarding role as Deputy Director of the Office of Labor Relations. I oversee a team of professionals who negotiate and advise on the 80 collective bargaining agreements at King County. So I was inspired to run for school board after observing questionable decisions and actions taken by the administration with seemingly little oversight from the board. The board's responsibility is to govern, set direction, and establish goals for the district. And the job of the superintendent and the administrative staff is to carry forward that direction set by the board. The understanding of this hierarchy needs to be restored in order to ensure accountability. I feel the school board must reestablish transparent, deliberative process with their work, and I have the experience to have those conversations and be able to do that.
Great, thank you so much. Thanks. All right, Martha, head on up.
Okay, is does that work? Yeah. Okay. My name is Martha Woodard, and I'm running for the school director position number 3. I'd like to thank Vashon-Maury Community Council, Diane, Jessica, and Amy for giving all of us the chance to introduce ourselves to the island. I appreciate, and I'm really looking forward to listening to all the other candidates in other positions too. This is just a wonderful chance for all of us to become educated. My campaign will focuses on the 2 things that I bring to the table, and that is experience and commitment. I've taught on this island in Vashon Island High School for 33 years, retiring in 2016. I have experienced how decisions made by the local school board and the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction impact the classroom, our students, and staff. As negotiator for the Vashon Education Association, as well as serving as its president, I have experience in analyzing the budget and expenditures of our school district and comparing it to other school districts in the area. I'm familiar with the financial and policy challenges our school board deals with, and I really believe that it's important to have a member on the board who understands how theoretical policy translates to pragmatic outcomes in the classroom. There's many things that seem really good on paper, and many policies that we have that if you read it, it's great, but the implementation is the key. I'm committed to public education. It's been my entire life. I am absolutely passionate about it. I believe that we must be committed to providing the highest quality education in a progressive, positive environment for all students. And by doing this, we will create an inclusive, safe, and creative space for all our students. I'm privileged to be endorsed by the Washington Education Association, the Vashon Education Association, the Vashon Education Support Personnel Association, and the National Women's Political Caucus. Because I am retired, I'm able to make the commitment that I'll spend the majority of my time with this focus. Thanks.
Thanks, Martha. All right, so we're going to move a little bit faster with the questions because we have 15 minutes per segment for the rest of the evening. So I want to ask if there are questions online, if you want to raise your hands on the Zoom, and questions in the room, and please, under 30 seconds, just get right to your question. And we have a question in the back. Come on up to the mic. And if you can start with your first name, that'd be great.
My name's Abby Antonellis. Do you think that you are the only candidate that deserves endorsement from the union, the teachers union, and to both?
Go ahead, and we'll do about a minute.
I can't speak for an endorsement of a union. I mean, I'm very happy to have the endorsement. The union very rarely endorses. In all my time with the union of 33 years, there's only been one time that they have endorsed anyone, in my knowledge. So it's not something they do usually, and I can't answer that question directly since I'm not on the council.
I also can't answer that question, but I will say that I sought endorsement, and I appreciate that they took the time to interview me. And I can also share that I have a long history of labor relations experience working for workers and labor. I was the vice president of the Washington State Labor Council for many years. I've also worked for the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, and I wholeheartedly support workers, and including the teachers, the custodians, all the represented labor in the district.
Great, thank you. Is there a question on Zoom before we come back to the room? All right, go ahead.
My name is Selena, and I have one kid left in the schools, had 3 go through. My question is concerning the union. I think that one of the biggest frustrations that I've experienced as a parent and my kids have experienced as kids going through the district is when there are teachers who are not doing well and they teach year after year after year, and they're protected by the unions and the seniority system. And the one thing that has made me nervous about, I really like both of you a lot, and I wish you both luck in getting the position.
We're gonna have to kind of stop the question.
Well, let me just get to the point that what will you do to make sure that you're representing parents and students?
Thank you so much. All right, we'll start with Angela, then we'll go over to Martha.
Thank you for the question. I have the benefit of having experience in dealing with labor relations issues on both sides of the coin, from the management end and employee end. And really, I work in an environment right now where we're very collaborative with labor unions. I work on the management side and handle and administer various labor agreements, but we also handle various personnel issues. So if there are performance issues, I give guidance on how to handle those performance issues in a way that they can be consistent with the collective bargaining agreements. So I do have a lot of experience in trying to walk that fine line of establishing employee rights and that process, that due process of just cause, but also ensuring that people know the policies that are established and enforcing them consistently and equitably. And I think that's really important to really focus on establishing that regularly.
I would have a similar answer. I can tell as a committed union person and a grievance person, I have been on the side of trying to encourage an employee that needs to move on, and our union does not protect workers in the face of bad policy. My frustration has been not from the union's point of view, because we want to have the best teachers possible. We do not want to protect people who are violating their ethics, but there are processes that must be followed. And much of the problem that I have had as a union representative is the lack of understanding on the administration side of doing their job so we can help them. And sometimes that's just poor leadership on the part of a principal or a superintendent. Sometimes it's because they're overwhelmed and they never get in the classroom and they don't know what's going on. But I can tell you that our local union does not want to obstruct good education.
Great, thank you so much. And we have time for one fast question and fast answers. And we have one on Zoom?
Yeah, we do have one on Zoom. Lindsay Hoffman has...
Lindsay Hoffman, if
Lindsay
you could unmute.
Hoffman has a question.
Yeah, what do you feel about the school library? And would you support the librarian in her choice of books?
All right, let's talk
This
about
is
the library.
obviously referring to the banning books business.
Martha, let's go ahead, about a minute.
Banning books is wrong. That's my answer.
I don't support banning books.
Okay.
And I want to add, we love the library, and my kiddos come home with library books every day. They're constantly cycling through them, and it's the most joyous part of motherhood.
I want our district to have certified librarians with library science degrees, and they have cut them, and that's terrible.
All right, well, thank you so much. We're gonna end this segment. Thank you, thank you. All right, we'll move on to the next school district, position 5. That's Jake and Juniper. Come on up. And we'll start with opening statements. And Jake, you're nearest to the mic, so head on up to the podium, and you have a 2-minute opening statement, and Debbie will hold the time card for you.
All righty, good evening. My name is Jake Jacobovitch. I'm running for the school board, position number 5. You might ask, why am I running? Also, there's 2 minutes. I got to talk really fast and can't show my empathy, but it's there. Play it on 33 or speed or whatever on your Victrola. When I came to the island, this island, 47 years ago, I saw a community that took care of each other and prioritized the health, welfare, and needs of the children. I wanted to be part of that. 100 years from now, it will not matter what my bank account was, the sort of house I lived in, or the kind of car I drove, but the world may be a better place because I made a difference in the life of a child. I'm asking for your support to serve you again on the Vashon Island School Board. I was on the school board when my service ended in 2007, and I felt I left the district with many improvements in policies, budget, hiring, firing, curriculum alignment, highly capable program, capital improvements, and especially communications and interactive processes with the community to ensure that the school system is accessible, responsive, transparent, and accountable. I drove, towards those ends, I drove the school bus for the Vashon Island School District for 12 years for free as a volunteer for co-curricular activities. Basketball, football, baseball, UW College Day, Mount St. Helens, the Nordic Museum, Museum of Flight, Ballard Locks, ASB Student Conference, things that might not have happened if they didn't have a free bus driver. Over the years, I was a classroom volunteer helper on Fridays for Mrs. Avolio Tolli's classroom, for Mrs. Barron, for Ms. Heath, for Ms. Hunziker, and projects for Rochelle Munger Wolf. I applied and received Safe Routes to School grants that put in the sidewalks around McMurray. Also the Mariners Field. If elected, my priorities would be health, welfare, and safety of our students, transparency of district actions, board leadership, create interactive communication opportunities with the community, and increased ESJ DBI education for students, teachers, and staff, and forgive me for going over.
Thank you so much. All right, Juniper.
Good evening, and thank you for the Community Council for hosting this event. My name is Juniper Rogneby. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a candidate for School Board Position 5. My 2 children attend Vashon Public Schools. The pillars of my campaign are equity, accountability, and trust. I'm running with the well-being of all students as my North Star. It's important for district leaders to engage in careful reflection of recent events. Too many things have been swept under the rug for far too long. In order to move forward, we must do the important work of repair and building back trust. It's important, because I believe in the collective creativity, brilliance, and heart of the Vashon community, I welcome stakeholders, and that means all Vashon residents, as active participants in school board decision-making and governance. Decisions being made behind closed doors that directly affect our learning community must be brought into full public view. I fully believe that community members are ready and willing to serve as fully engaged partners to district leadership. It will be up to the new board to chart a path forward that robustly and meaningfully invites a more democratic process in developing and implementing policies and practices that shape our students' educational experience. I will never forget that the board of directors serves at the pleasure of the voters and should be accountable to all community members. This moment demands a shift in culture and a reckoning with who we want to be moving forward. I am ready to meet this particular moment. I am ready to have difficult conversations, engage in respectful conflict, and provide oversight to district administration. I commit to centering student voices. I hope to earn your trust, and I humbly ask for your vote.
Thank you. Okay, we will go with questions, and again, about under 30 seconds per question, please. All right, Casey, come on up.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to ask this of the previous 2 candidates as well. I'm sorry I didn't get that opportunity. Can I please ask of each of you to name a specific policy or issue that you are interested in pursuing on the board?
Great
Specific.
question.
Thank you.
Specific. All right, about a minute and a half.
Thanks for that question. I'm really excited by the idea of building leadership teams that are ideally bringing in parents, student voices, teachers, community members to really shape the goals and priorities within each building. I think there are opportunities for voices that haven't been heard or folks that have tried. There's a lot of people that have tried over the years in various ways to have their concerns heard, whether at the district level or at the building level. And I think there is an exciting opportunity because I think people are ready and willing to engage. I think there has to be a more meaningful invitation and follow through in these building leadership teams, and I absolutely believe they have to include student voices. And I believe that even at the elementary level. I think kids know what's what, and they see everything. And to be making decisions without their input and without their insight risks losing such an important piece of the puzzle. So I really am interested in supporting the building leadership teams in each of the schools and making them a more robust place for conversation that involves everyone.
Thank you. I see as one issue that encompasses a lot of issues is board leadership. On election day, if I'm elected, I will have prior school board experience at the Vashon School District, more board experience than the other 4 board members combined. And I don't have to be the leader, but I can help them to have a board that controls things and is the leader of the group there. I have 5 grandkids in the school district right now. One of them's a junior, and she lives with us. And so I'm invested in all of this, and I've been on 8 or 10 different boards in my lifetime. I know how a board's supposed to operate, I know the rules, and I know the various things that the school district should be doing. A lot more public participation and involvement and opportunities for that. It was when I was on the board before, we had that kind of involvement. We had 20, 30 people showed up at least in person every meeting, and on the big events and things like that, there was 50, 60, 70 people. And in a board meeting, if someone in the public wanted to raise their hand and ask a question, it was our prerogative to recognize them and have them speak, to hear what they have to say, because this community's got a lot of valuable people. So that is one of my main priorities. Just one more is ESJ and diversity, belonging, and inclusion. I was the manager of that program for Metro Transit for 4,500 employees. I helped develop it, and they delivered it and managed it for 2 years. And that's important too.
Thank you. I know it's hard to stop mid-sentence. I apologize. Do we have a question on Zoom? Okay, I absolutely have a question, and I'm very curious about what you think you have learned. What have you learned so far as you have run for Vashon School Board? What did you not know when you signed up to run for school board that you know now?
I've been attending the school board meetings for the last 8 months, all of them. Cookies for Your Thoughts, I've been there. Anything the public's invited to, I've been attending. So to see what's going on is something I didn't know when I signed up. Otherwise, I've been on the board before, I've run for office before, 4 or 5 different public offices, so I'm not surprised by anything except the subject at hand, our school district.
Such a good question. I mean, no one would ever say that Vashon is short on opinions or people that, want to have their say. I think in considering, sometimes it can feel really overwhelming to think about all the various statutes or the labor relations issues or whatever sort of is going to be in front of any given board at any time. People on the board need to be subject matter experts on some things and have a great deal of passion for, obviously, for education and a clear idea about the hierarchy and oversight, as Angela spoke to. I think we need to rely on each other and rely on people who have more information than we do. I think sometimes in board meetings, people are making decisions without information that they need, without having solicited from folks who are experts in their field, and there often hasn't been enough time for board members, honestly, to ask good questions, to respectfully disagree, to sit with difficult questions before they have to come to decisions. And so I think sometimes there can be a false sense of urgency. Many of the issues before us are incredibly urgent. And also, there is merit in figuring out a way to work together in such a way that there is time built in to get the information that we need, to consider various solutions and various stakeholder opinions. Is that my time?
Okay, thank you so much. Good questions, or sorry, good answers to that. I have another question, because we have time for one more question, but we have one from Hillary.
So Kara Sears and John Reese were inappropriate teachers. What would you do that you agreed with the board, and what would you do that you disagreed with the board on how everything was handled?
Great, thanks. And we'll start with Juniper.
I'm going to do my best to not let my My emotions and my frustration and my rage about that situation get the better of me. However, I think everybody should have that level of concern and high emotion about what happened in this community and the lack of what I think were appropriate repercussions. I don't think that the report about John Reese should have been suspended without a full report from the investigator. I think that should have gone to its conclusion and then made available to the public. I'm deeply concerned that it seems that Ms. Sears likely moved on to another community, seemingly without any consequences for her behavior in this community. I believe we owe something to each other, and sometimes that can feel really kind of nebulous or woo-woo, but I don't think letting someone who has harmed children continue on as an educator anywhere else is an acceptable solution. Yes, we wanted that person out of our community, and in the short term, we wanted the harm to stop, and we wanted to work towards repair. And also, we missed an opportunity, I believe, to really reckon and have her reckon with what she did here. And my understanding is there's nothing stopping her from teaching in another community, and I think it's reprehensible.
Yeah, once again, I think this lends itself to board leadership and inexperience in guiding the process. And, you know, having been on all sorts of different boards in my lifetime, there are certain things that's not understandable to the public that has to be remaining confidential. But there's many, many things in this process that probably didn't. The communication could have been a lot better. And on day one, I would engage my board members to figure out who to convene together to create a process for more oversight of what's going on, and once again to have more interactive activities with teachers, with students, with things like that, so they talk to us. You know, maybe a student ombudsman, you know, but just something to open up the flow of information so that we know about these things and can cut them off at the pass, you know, not when damage has been done. So yeah, it's a real black eye for this community and for those kids and for all our teachers who do such a good job. You know, 99.9% of them do a fabulous job. So I think that we need to work on that in the coming year immediately, or the existing board can start that plan right now.
All right, if there's one more fast question, we can do lightning round, but we are 1 minute away from time. Yeah.
One of the minority groups on the island are conservatives, and I just wonder if you guys could address how you would include their voices.
I think sometimes we often paint Vashon with a very wide brush about our, that we are all of a certain political or philosophical stance. And I know that that's not true, and I think we actually ignore the measure of diversity of thought in this community, often at our own peril. I think, unfortunately, in the age of social media, it's very easy to have quick, strong opinions about a lot of things, and often without being in real community and in real conversation with each other, we lose the opportunity to see each other's humanity, to see that we might have shared concerns about our children, we might have shared concerns about building environments, all sorts of things, and I think most of that happens through real person-to-person conversation. I think it is possible. I think I lived at one point in Jacksonville, Florida, which is culturally a very different place from Vashon Island. And I think sometimes in your life it's really important to live with people who are very different from you are and who see the world in a very different way. And so I think it's about relationships more than anything.
Yeah, I've had great experience with this. When I was president of the community council for 4 years, we had lots of big issues there. And one of them was with Tom Stewart, let's say, who was a conservative, and you know, the conservatives and the liberals, we worked it out. It's just talking with people, listening to people, trying to engage their concerns and put together a plan that, if not total win-win, that can be acceptable to both parties. Same thing when I was the president of or the chair of the King County EEOAA Employee Advisory Committee. They were people with lots of diverse attitudes and opinions and things like that. But talking with people, listening to people, you know, I have extensive experience in bringing people together to find solutions.
All right, Juniper, Jake, thank you so much. All right, we are going to move on from school board now to the Vashon Island Fire and Rescue Commissioners race. And I think we have Candy McCullough and Adam Nez in the house. Come on up.
Candy's online.
Candy's online. Do we have Adam? Liz?
I reported on June 1st in the Beacon that Adam had withdrawn from the race.
All right.
I don't know if that's still the case. Maybe something changed.
All right.
And I didn't know about it to report it, but I did report that.
Okay. Well, we've freed up a little bit more time then. And we'll look forward to hearing from Candy in December with all of the forward candidates. All right.
This is Candy.
Hey, Candy. We are going to go ahead, since Adam is not in the race, we're only doing contested races. So we're going to move on to the next race. There were a couple school board races that weren't contested, and so we didn't include those candidates. So that takes us to the cemetery district, and that's Catherine and Deborah. All right, Deborah, head right on up to the podium. You can... Oh, congratulations. Yeah, head on up and we'll do 2-minute opening statements.
Hi, I'm Deborah Brown. I'm running for the King County Cemetery District 1, Position 1. Okay, I'm just gonna leave it like that. I'm a 35-year resident of Vashon, and my academic background is organizational systems, environmental management, and education. And I've worked many places here on the island. I've worked in the school districts. I've worked at your health center. I've been at the fire department for about 29 years. I've been your Vashon Park District Commissioner and your Vashon Chamber of Commerce Director. So I've been around for a little bit. So I feel like I have a feeling for the community itself. About a year ago, I was traveling in Texas, and everywhere I saw these Purple Heart trails. Purple Heart Trail, what was that? So I came home, looked it up, and the first face that came to my mind was Robert Benenson, because he's a local youth that had lost his life in Afghanistan. And I thought, what a wonderful way to acknowledge him and all the other veterans that are in the Vashon Cemetery. So I set out to do that. And then my mother had a stroke, so that took me away for a bit, but now I'm back. And I'm a political hound, so I was looking at the elections as we were coming to a close for filing. And the cemetery position was open, and that can't be. We can't have a community position that is still open. So I thought, what a great combination. The trail, which commemorates your fallen veterans, and the cemetery position. So that's why I'm running. And I hope that we can also increase interaction with the schools and learn the history, and as well as keep up a respectful site and monitor it and maintain it in a respectful and ethical manner. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
I'll try.
It's good. I was going to move it back. My name's Catherine. I'm running for the Cemetery Commissioner #1 alongside Deborah. I wanted to first thank the Chamber, the Council, the Presbyterians, and all of you folks for being here tonight. I want to thank Deborah for running and for her past experience with island organizations. I want to thank the current cemetery staff and counselors, Wendy, Mark, Lisa, Tony, and especially outgoing Commissioner Jay Hansen. I believe that cemeteries are sacred spaces and beautiful reflections of one's community, whether that's a community you were born into or your chosen home for your final place of remembrance. And the Vashon Cemetery is a unique insight into our community. It's diverse, it's creative, it's progressive, there's involvement with military and the religious and other organizations, and I want to do my part to help keep it a vital and vibrant organization that honors our past, also while looking forward to the future. It's an exciting time in the death care industry, and I'm proud that Vashon is doing the work with that. I believe in being an active and engaged member of my community also. I've been involved with the Sheepdog Classic Trial, VIP, Mukai Farm and Garden, the Unitarian Universalists, and bring over 15 years of experience with logistics and finances with my job at Harborview in the education department. Finally, my grandfather was buried in the cemetery in 1978, 2 years after was incorporated by King County. I have an uncle buried there in 1996, and my grandmother was buried there in 2014. One day, I know I will be memorialized there as also. So I appreciate your support so I can be involved when I'm still living and not dead.
Thank you so much. That's the first time I've ever heard that in any kind of political something anywhere ever. All right, do we have any hands up in the Zoom room? Any hands up here? Yeah, for sure, ma'am.
I'm curious to know what are some of those progressive things that is being done. Are they having special natural burials? What are they like? Having pet cemetery? What are you doing?
Great, and we'll do about a minute and a half.
So they have had one green burial so far. They're prepping for another one, not as we speak, but getting close to it. And I know that they've sold lots of plots with it. I don't remember the number, but you can buy a green burial plot. So they have had it. I don't know about the pets part. That hasn't been brought up. I would think so. They pretty much support whatever you do.
In addition to that, they're also doing a lookabout for places of land to expand the green burial program throughout the community. It doesn't have to be adjacent to the cemetery. It can be elsewhere. Hopefully flat is what they're looking for, but so they're looking to expand. They're listening to the community, listening to what's going on environmentally.
Great, fantastic. Any questions on Zoom? But there was a second hand up over there.
That was my question also.
Okay, and then Debbie, did you have a question?
Yeah, something just occurred to me I'll ask you about, and that is, how does the cemetery district decide on their budget every year?
So I have only been attending the meetings for the last 5 or 6 months. And so by the time I started attending, they had already set the budget. So I don't know. But I know that they live within their budget and they have a very strong cash reserve. So I have a meeting scheduled with Wendy to figure out, logistics like that. So I haven't done that yet. But I look forward to it.
I'm in the same boat that she is. However, I know that we have a very small part of the levy, very small amount of money that they're working with. It's not a huge amount of money, but they've done quite a little bit with just a little bit of staff. So.
And we have a question on Zoom from John Whitaker. If you can unmute yourself, John.
Okay, we just had a funeral there, and the cemetery district has to do a lot better job coordinating with the Sportsman's Club. They had no idea we were having it, and it sounded like World War II. And it was just outrageous. And whoever is responsible for coordinating that, it was just terrible. And it was for a 101-year-old woman who died.
Okay, and I'm just going to kind of make that into a question. How would you reach out to community groups? And we'll start over with Deborah.
Well, I'm really sorry to hear that that happened to you. First of all, scheduling is a difficult thing to do. I'm not going to say it's an easy thing to do. I don't know currently what may have broken down for that communication between the Sportsman's Club and the cemetery, but improved communication there. There are many organizations that take part in ceremonies and different activities there, and so I would hope that a line of communication all the way around would be helpful. I don't know if, in addition to working with funeral agencies that are off island, perhaps might be something additionally we might want to look at.
I would just say I agree with you. I go to the cemetery a lot, and it bothers me to hear the shotgun fires, because for me, cemeteries are a place of respite and reprieve. But I can appreciate that there's lots of relationships and there's rules. I know they're not supposed to shoot their gun before 9 a.m., but like I said, still being so new to this group, I can appreciate that there's relationships and rules, and look forward to having communications with the Sportsman's Club so that they can be told and maybe stop during services.
Well, I'm going to raise my hand again. I would raise my hand again. If I could,
sure, go ahead.
Follow up. They weren't told. They weren't told. I'm a member of the Sportsman's Club, and they weren't told of and so there has to be a better communication between the cemetery district and the Sportsman's Club. I'm a member there. I support them, but they weren't told of it.
John, that's great feedback. Thank you so much. I think absolutely Catherine and Deborah have heard that and internalized that and appreciate that. We are going to, sure, come on up real quick.
Thanks again for the opportunity. In one of the opening comments, you talked about respecting the cemetery grounds. I'm curious, what in your mind prompted, or what would prompt you to be concerned about disrespect, and what disrespect will look like in terms of the cemetery, and what actions do you think would be appropriate to address them?
Great. We'll do about 1 minute.
So I'm not quite sure. I just said that they were sacred spaces and beautiful reflections. I can't think of a statement that I said about disrespect. Oh, sorry, okay.
It wasn't a matter of disrespecting. It was a matter of it is a sacred space. People are there to honor folks that are placed there, and by caring for it, maintaining it, making it look nice, keeping it open, listening to the people that have interest in it, listening to the groups that utilize that space to honor folks that are placed there, intern there. That's what I meant by being respectful of all concerns of all people that are there, both in historical ways, where maybe their folks aren't around anymore, or folks that are newly there.
All right, I feel I have a shocking number of questions suddenly about a cemetery district that I didn't, but we are ready to move on to our next segment, to be fair to everyone. So Catherine and Deborah, thank you so much, and I think folks might want to follow up. Okay, well, we will now go to Parks and Recreation, Mike and Bob. All right, yeah, head on up to the podium. We'll do 2-minute opening statements.
Thanks, everybody, for sticking around to the very end. Perhaps not quite as exciting or controversial as the county council or the school district, but I think the best position that's available. So My name is Mike Spranger. I've lived on the island for 22 years. I've got 3 kids, all of whom have taken great advantage of the parks on the island, as have I. 2 of the kids are out of the house. One's a senior in high school. I used to work for a logistics company in Seattle. I was a commuter for about 30 years and left that in 2020. And for the last couple years, I have been working on becoming a seaweed farmer here on the island. There are 2 Mikes actually on the island trying to be seaweed farmers. I'm Mike Spranger. I'm the South End Mike, who recently got his permit sustained by the Shoreline Hearings Board. So that's the Mike that I am in terms of Mike the seaweed farmer. My involvement with the Parks District started about a year ago. Bob and the other commissioners invited the public to their board meeting to talk about the Tramp Harbor Dock, which was something that I was interested in. Prior to that, I hadn't been to a board meeting. And after that, I started to get interested in terms of becoming a board member. I have not been to all of the meetings since then, but probably 8 or 10 meetings since then. Most of the time, I was the only member of the public there, which I found to be interesting, that there wasn't more public involvement, but so it goes. From a why me point of view, I think that there's 3 main reasons. The first one is that the current 6-year strategic plan for the Park District is coming to an end in 2024. So now would be the time to start the work on that next 6-year plan. I've done a bunch of work at the strategy level in my previous job, so I'm well suited for that. While the budget for the Parks Department is nowhere near those other 2 groups that I mentioned, it's a significant amount of money that we all pay for, about $2 million. So I've got a lot of financial and budgetary work. And the last reason is because I really, really like the parks. I think it's important for it to be a fun thing to do. Like I want to actually participate in this board. I use the parks, if not daily, on a weekly basis, as do my kids. And so that level of engagement and involvement is another big reason why I want to run. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Bob?
Wow, in a church and I'm standing in the pulpit. It's a strange experience. I'm Bob McMahon. Been on the island for 37 years. We live down in the Point Robinson area with 2 rescue dogs, 3 rescue goats, 2 rescue alpacas, and education, UW Mechanical and Industrial Engineering, and since I got out of school, I've been in the Navy submarine service. I was project manager, production manager, general manager in the shipbuilding industry, manufacturing and engineering and production manager in a manufacturing business. Post-retirement project management consultant and 2 terms as Vashon Park District Commissioner. In terms of recreational use of the parks, in the past I've been an adult soccer player, an adult soccer, or a youth soccer coach. Actually, before I coached before I played, which is probably a little bass-ackwards, but collegiate rower, high school rower, past Vashon Island Rowing Club rower, and I'm currently a lap swimmer. And that's why my interest in the parks has really lately centered on the Vashon Pool. We have done a lot with the parks since I've been on the board, and it was an exciting place. Does that mean something, Debbie? Have I got 30 seconds or something? 15 seconds, okay. Well, my main interest right now is with the swimming pool because of the aging demographics on the island, and it's an important place for people like me to be able to get their exercise. It's also a great place for the kids on the island to do their swim team, and I have to sit down now.
Thank you. Any questions on Zoom right now? No? Okay. All right, well, I definitely can ask then, Bob, if you kind of want to continue, what I'd like to ask is, what's one thing about parks that you think is going really well? And talk about one thing where you'd like to see some improvement, what you'd like to see.
Well, when I when I first came on the board, the parks were in pretty bad financial condition. There was a lot of money that was misspent. There were a lot of good things that came out of it, but it unfortunately put us really in debt, and we're still working out of that in terms of capital projects, major maintenance projects that have been held since for 8 years. We're still trying to work through that mess. There was dysfunction on the board. We used to get almost as many people at board meetings watching us perform as are sitting here in this church tonight. Now the meetings are boring, which I think is nice. We get a couple people. Mike has been to some, so you know what they're like. They're kind of yawners, but we're getting the work done, and I think everybody is happy with the performance of the parks lately. So I think from a financial standpoint, we're doing well. We've done some great things. We got year-round pools. We've got a great new kids playground by Ober Park. We've got the skate park, which was just dedicated a week or so ago. A great place for kids to hang out. And we got a great board too, great people to work with. I really enjoyed being there. So, and what was the second part of the question?
What in particular would you like to improve? You've got about 20 seconds.
What I like to change, what I like to improve? Well, again, it's finances. We are up against it all the time. Oh, I'm sorry. We're up against it all the time. And I could get into a lot of detail on all of the things, but it's mostly that it's aging equipment, and year after year it takes more and more to maintain it, which is making it difficult for us to get the old stuff taken care of. And if there are more questions in that area, I'm glad to get into them, because there's some work we have to do there.
Mike, one thing that you like about the parks and one thing you want to improve?
One thing that I like about the parks, I think I'll reiterate a little bit of what Bob said in terms of there seemingly being not a lot of drama. That implies that things are going pretty darn well. I think that there's an opportunity for some drama around the Tramp Harbor dock. That's probably, there's a lot of money to be spent on the pools, but the Tramp Harbor dock, which has been closed, I think, for 2, if not 3 years, the board has recently approved about $2.7 million for a new dock. It'll be a smaller footprint than the current one, but nonetheless, effectively a brand new dock. I think that is going well in the sense that the board approved it. I was in support of that when I was there at the meetings. But it's going to be some tough work. The board has got to get a bunch of grants. The board's got to involve, the board and Elaine, the executive director, has got to involve the community to get some more money. But that's a big opportunity for the board and the Parks District to do some really good work on the island. In terms of what's not going well, frankly, from what I've seen, I think the board and the district is doing a great job. I can't think of one thing that isn't going particularly well.
Thank you. And we have a question from Sylvia online. If you want to unmute yourself, thank you.
Yes, thanks. Along with Mike, I've been attending park board meetings as well. On behalf of the residents on Vashon who are dog owners and would like to see a safe, fenced dog park on the island. At their last budget meeting in December of 2022, the board approved a contingency that would provide a match for those of us who want to raise funds for that park. My question is, would you continue to support a contingency match for a dog park on Vashon? Both of you.
Would you support a contingency match for a dog park on Vashon? Yeah, a match in the budget for a dog park.
I wouldn't. Part of the Parks District mission is to acquire and to maintain parks. I would focus almost entirely on the maintenance component and not on the acquisition component. With a dog park, you don't necessarily have to acquire a new piece of land. You could put a dog park on an existing piece of land. And if that was able to be done with an existing parks parcel with a relatively small amount of money, my opinion could be changed, but I would not be in favor of a brand new dog park with a big expenditure. There are 3 parks, I believe it's 3 if not 4 parks that allow off-leash dogs right now. I think that people ought to have voice control over their dogs at all times, and if they have that control, there's opportunities for them to take them to those existing parks that allow dogs.
Yeah, dog parks are great, and we went to a lot of work to try to find some place within our system where it would make sense. It's not a money issue, it's really more of a compatibility issue. We're looking at Paradise Ridge as a possible area, but dogs getting loose and getting mixed up with the horses, with kids riding around, that's kind of a scary prospect. It seemed to me there was more of a chance, more of an opportunity within the King County Park system to come up with something like that. And I honestly thought that that was happening, but certainly love dogs and would love to see, and like to see people able to get them out there and run around without having to be on a leash. But it's true, there are several of our parks where dogs are allowed to be off leash as long as they're under the control of their owners.
Yeah, question. Wait, let's go to Jake with a question, because Jake has had his hand up and not been able to ask yet.
Well, being a former Park District Commissioner, I know safety, and especially for our kids in the parks, is of utmost importance. I drive past the Burton Skate Park every day, and I see all of these dipsy doodles and all of these things that seem quite dangerous to me. When I was a child growing up in the Republic of Brooklyn, they always had a park keeper in the park when the park was open. And I don't think that that's the case in the skate park, and that seems like one kid could be out there and break
What's
his
your
neck,
question,
right?
Jake? Sorry.
Do you see the danger that I feel, or what could be done?
I brought that up in a couple of our meetings, and it has to do with, there's no question that State Park has got some danger built into it. There's that bowl, and then this, what do they call it, a pump track. There's some danger involved, and there's a certain number of kids there that don't wear helmets, and that to me is crazy. Talked to Elaine about that. We can't enforce it. We can't have somebody there all the time. We certainly have signage that indicates that it's to be done. We expect it to be done, and we expect the people, we expect the older kids to mentor the younger kids to indicate to them how important it is. It is staffed part of the time, and that is a big issue. It's a difficult thing to enforce. But I'm certainly in favor of safety, no question. Thanks for bringing it up.
I like safety too. I was a skater as a kid and got hurt plenty of times. I think it's incumbent upon the kid, and as Bob mentioned, older kids to model that behavior, and parents. I didn't know that there was a staff person there. I personally wouldn't try to hire a full-time person or try to staff it the entire time that's open. I think that's more incumbent on the kids and the parents to deal with that.
All right, we have time for one more question. We'll go all the way to the back.
I'm Jeff, and I wonder if we could get some running water at like Liza Beulah Park or Jensen Point. We have running water at Docton Park, but the other parks, they don't have any running water. Can we get running water at some of these parks?
I know that Jensen does have a bathroom facility, and I believe they've got sinks, and there's also a hose that I've drank out of. I think you're right that there isn't any at Liza Beulah. I think there's probably more pressing needs than that. You could bring a water bottle.
You know, after 8 years, that's the first time that's come up, which seems kind of funny, but if something we'll look into, sure. You're talking about drinking fountains, really, is what you're talking about. Right, got it. Yeah. Okay, got it, thanks.
All right, we've hit our time. Unless there's another quick question, we will wrap up. Mike, Bob, thank you so much for your time. Yeah.
Wow, so efficient. It's fabulous to be able to wrap this up and have heard everybody and got almost everybody's questions answered tonight. Thank you so much for coming. Our next meeting is Thursday, October 19th at 7 o'clock back at the Land Trust Building, and we'll be reviewing the results of the Community Needs List survey, and we have 320 some people on the island who filled out that survey, so we're going to have some really interesting results from that. So I'll see you then. Thanks, everybody. Yes, and this meeting is recorded, and we are going to end the recording soon, and it'll be put on our website, v-mcc.org, sometime tomorrow. So, meeting's adjourned, everybody.